It's finally time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PricePlow podcast. We are here at the Sensapure Flavors booth, IFT First 2025, with Tyrus Sciarra of Sensapure Flavors.
Let's do it. First one.
Tyrus, you've been instructed one thing on this podcast, and it is to not be too Tyrus. So let's just kick it off like that. What does that even mean?
Let's just say I bring the energy. And speaking of energy, let's get this thing cracked off here. Thank you guys for having me. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's what the Tyrus is all about, is bringing the energy.
You want to? I feel like we should just introduce you by telling the story of how PricePlow came to know Tyrus.
We should start there. That's a great spot.
Okay, I was thinking about starting the story even further back with Tyrus's mom, but
well, everyone is born when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much. There comes a Tyrus.
And once in a while, you get a highly extroverted child, and a lot of, there's introverted, and then a highly extroverted child who goes and talks to strangers.
And we were talking about that earlier. I was that kid, and I don't think much has changed.
And every time I see one of those kinds of kids come up to me, I'm like, man, I am so thankful my daughter is not this kind of person, but we need them in the world. And so you are one, and it naturally brings you into a sales role.
Yes,
right?
It does. Yep. And so that's what I always think. In my sales role, I always say I'll never be the smartest person in the room, which I'm totally okay with. But I like to know the smartest people in the room. And I think my superpower is really my ability to connect people, much like what PricePlow does. And I think that's why we get along as well as we do, is the understanding that collaboration is really what drives this industry. And you want to collaborate with people you want to work with. We all know what it's like to work with someone you don't want to work with, and we've all been there. But, that's what kicks us into collaborating now.
Awesome. And so with your career in flavors, though, it did kind of start with your mom. That's kind of where I was going. Like, give us the background, professional lead background.
Started at 80 and Wild Flavors. So Wild Flavors was an amazing flavor company that was so close to the consumer. It was known for their kind of product development skills, their application skills. So ADM acquired Wild. I joined when ADM had acquired Wild, and I was selling the entire portfolio of products. But I found my specialty and my niche kind of in the active lifestyle and the nutrition market. And so that's where, I found my success, grew in the inside sales role, was promoted outside of that role to calling on some major CPG companies like Kellogg's and others, which just wasn't my forte more than anything. So,
You're not into the cornflakes or anything?
I was as a kid, not as much anymore. But it was, it was a 7-year innovation cycles. And I don't know if it's the instant gratification of being a millennial Gen Z, but I like stuff that turns over quickly. I like to see products on the shelves. And obviously, Kellogg's great products, but ended up making my way over to MANE, M-A-N-E, 150-year-old flavor company. They had some flavors that were doing well in nutrition customers, but they didn't understand the market and the channel. And they wanted to bring in someone that was passionate about it to kind of learn more. And so I started over there kind of, again, as a door opener, 0 accounts, go out and cold call and open accounts, which is actually the company that I met Ben at. I had tried to two-hand stop him in the middle of supply side out in Vegas, to let him know that I had these crazy ideas and we should do all of these things together, which, foreshadowing, we've gotten to majority of them now.
As Ben holds up his Expo Energy can.
Cheers to that right there.
Edition. I like the phrase bum rushed, is what he did to me. I was coming out of, I was in a meeting at the Mandalay Bay. New Leaf Sciences had like a whole suite. They had me up. We were like having breakfast, and I came down this elevator, and it's a very dark lobby in the Mandalay Bay, and I come out, and there's just this man just like grabbing me, telling me all the things that he wants to do with business-wise. Who were you with? Someone was with you.
My boss. It was my VP of sales, Otis.
Yeah.
And it's funny, most of my bosses tend to be not necessarily the opposite of me, but complimentary of me, right? So I'm out there, I'm extroverted. My other, less detailed and more 0 to 100, whereas my bosses tend to be well-detailed, very, detail-oriented, calmer people.
So that happened in October, and it had to have been like 2021, I want to think.
Yeah.
And so that happened in October. Like 3 months later, I went to the Sports and Active Nutrition Summit in San Diego, And a similar thing happened where I was leaving the gym on the beach, and Tyrus comes like sprinting up. He's like, Ben, he's like, I'll buy you breakfast.
Let's
Just
go
listen
chat.
to what I have to say. And so like, I think I got him to buy me like 2 breakfast burritos.
We've had a couple breakfasts from Tyrus.
Yeah. And so, I'll listen to everything Tyrus has to say. Todd Spear joined us for breakfast that morning, actually, too. And it's just like the rest has been history.
And you know what's really funny is I was actually still at Man at that time. And I pitched this idea to Man of, hey, you want to speak to this channel. You want to speak to the channel through people that the channel listens to. It's just like you tell a brand, right? Like, I want to get into esports. Well, you don't understand the gamers. You don't understand the mindset. It seems inauthentic. And so as much as I can talk about flavors and how passionate I am about this channel, no one wants to listen. You're also a sales guy. And so it's leveraging your resources around you. And that's what I saw PricePlow as, and I still see it today even more now, is the ability to connect, the ability to make people listen to everything that's going on. And so I pitched this idea to Man. It still didn't go anywhere. But that was actually my last trade show with Man.
I met Shane later that day.
Because Shane Howe, who was my competition at the time, now the president of Sensapure, we ran into each other quite a bit. And that was the final time that we ran into each other where he said, hey, we're kind of sick of competing. Would you ever want to come and join us? And shortly after that, I want to say that was what, in February? May 7th, my, I think, 27th birthday, I had joined Sensapure. 28th birthday, just joined Sensapure. So fast forward another 2 months into being with Sensapure, I reached back out to Ben to repitch this idea. And I think timing is everything. Because I think if this collaboration may have happened in a different place, it may have looked a lot differently. So that's what, that's what teaches me a lot about sales is you have to be consistent, but sometimes you can't rush the timing. And so it ended up working out really well. And fast forward to today, we're doing a podcast here at IFT.
It's been a fun few years. Since that day, I feel like every show we've done something together.
Yes.
You don't come to Supply Side East very much, but we last year made a pact that Supply Side East was our show that we were going to like own the party at, and we've now 2 years in a row of like thrown some parties that people have
throw some very good starter parties. So we're starting to do some fun things. We got a few games together. We get together. Obviously the XPO Energy collaboration. So there's a lot of stuff that's been happening. So I'm appreciative of all the collaborations that we've been able to do.
It's kind of funny how you operate. Is like, this is kind of business advice for some people. Some people don't want to do this, but like, you can become the person where it's like, we are tired of competing with this person, or then companies get acquired like this. There's like a lot of things. If you need to get stuff done, then sometimes someone's got to be the annoying mother-in-law or whatever.
Sometimes the greasiest wheel gets squeaked. Right? The squeakiest wheel gets greased. That's what it is. That's my dyslexia.
I was
going to
let you go with that, man.
See, I always get back to it eventually, but it is kind of that case. And so to me, it's consistency, right? And I think that's what this industry looks at. You look at flavor companies these days. A lot of things are commoditized to a certain extent, to where you're really competing on service and relationship and cost. So sometimes buying power is out there and kind of changes things, but it's really every brand, every co-man is looking for someone to emotionally invest in their brand and become just as knowledgeable about where they should go next. And that's what I think Sensapure as a whole does extremely well.
Yeah, I love, I have really enjoyed getting into flavor companies because I've come to understand the different personalities of each one. And I have really come to understand especially that, each company might have some proprietary things that they do differently. They may have a different library of flavors or more flavors one or another, but really the differentiator when it comes to the buyers of flavors is really going to be customer service, turnaround time, like how they service customers. Not to say that, the lemonade in Expo Energy is phenomenal. You guys have great flavors, but I really think it's the customer service that makes the difference for you guys.
The customer service and the application piece. So you can have a great flavor, but if you can't get that great flavor on time, you're consistently letting down your customer. And that reliability, that consistency is huge. But also your ability to apply the flavor, to understand the base. And I think those are the two really unique aspects of what Sensapure does, is we understand the cognizin, the paraxanthine, the GO-BHB, and how to use those nuances versus a different flavor company specializing just in different categories. And I think, again, there's enough room for everyone. There's a lot of different things that different companies do. There are some amazing technologies that certain companies don't have, right? But I think it's about who you want to work with at the end of the day, who you can trust and rely on, who you can call on a Saturday, Sunday, and they'll pick up, who can get you an answer quicker than someone else can. And as much as I love my previous roles, I wasn't working directly under the president or the owner of the company. There was a lot of layers, a lot of bureaucracy where you have to go through to get things approved. So the PricePlow pitch to my previous company is a perfect example. That went up 2 layers and then got stuck. And there's 6 layers. And now I'm at Sensapure, and I can call Jeff, the owner, and say, this is why I think we should think about Sensapure as a brand and building this brand that brands can look at and say, we want you guys to be involved in the building of our brand because we think you understand where we want to go.
So for those who are listening and haven't heard it first, we visited with you and we did a podcast that you weren't on, but it was episode 149.
The experts were on.
Really technical and everything. And so I have a lot of things to add here. One thing that I love that you do, because to me, these flavors are not a commodity thing. Like sometimes you're like, anyone can flavor it. Here's the thing is, a lot of times we're dealing with a manufacturer who just does their own flavoring, and we get samples, and I'm like, dude, it's not good enough. And that's like, I know you could sell some stuff. And I know that working with a Sensapure applications team might cost you some money, but I've seen so many products not live to their full potential because the flavor wasn't spot on, and they were shooting big, and they missed because of flavor. The formula is great and everything, and it's like, I'm just like, please, we just call Tyrus. Like, it's not worth putting out something that isn't a banger at this point.
Yep. And that's the exact reason I partnered with you guys and thought about this, right? Because when we first talked, right, like, how are you going to speak about a flavor company? And it's really leveraging our networks, right? So sometimes companies are too small for us to work directly on flavor them. MOQs would be a little too high, but then we can guide them to a co-man that looks for small companies, right? So the one thing you mentioned about like an application team at a co-man, where a lot of brands will lean on those application teams, is those application teams are limited to the flavor libraries that flavor companies provide them. And the key difference to me is, let's say I get you a lemonade flavor, and you try the lemonade flavor, and you're like, wow, it's extremely one-dimensional. There's nothing else to it. What can I do? The co-man can take a different flavor and try to ratio and layer it in. But as you scale, now they're buying multiple flavors, could be from multiple different companies, and you're kind of limited to the resources that they have. Where I know when you guys came to Sensapure, you met Scott Zimmerman, you met Derek Greer. So Scott Zimmerman is the senior flavor chemist, senior certified flavor chemist. He can take that lemonade and actually build a 10%, pink lemonade ratio into that flavor, whatever that, strawberry, cotton candy notes, things like that. Get that right back to you. Now your co-man's buying a single flavor. As you scale, that becomes extremely important, because the more flavors you have in something, I've heard a company say, we had a consultant build something out for us, and they put 4 different flavor companies in because they didn't want someone to match it out. Well, that's not the case, because I guarantee you it can still be matched, and now you're going to go into production waiting on one of those 4 flavors and not going to be able to run because someone didn't deliver on time.
Yeah, it's a supply chain nightmare.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Scott Zimmerman. I absolutely love this guy. Like, I would love to just take his brain and just put it right in there. It's unbelievable. What I love that he does that we talk about, I'm not sure if we talked about it too much on the podcast, is that he goes after aroma and smell. And I think he did mention this because the smell is really the first experience. You open this Expo Energy, it's not the taste that comes first, it's the aroma. And me having the nose, it's like, it's got to smell good. Otherwise, things just flip upside down in your brain. And he is very meticulous about that, even if whatever he does for the smell is not necessarily what you're going to taste.
Yep, absolutely. And I think, again, that's the whole taste experience. And I know that Scott kind of gave the very scientific retro nasal olfactory, how you kind of reverse smell is how you actually taste. The real aspect to that is, so Zimmerman is a second-generation flavor chemist. So his father was a perfumist. And that's really where the interesting nuances come in, is a lot of flavors and fragrances are often used together. And it's that full experience. It's like you get a beverage that's colored purple, and you try it, your mind leans great, and that just happened to me before, and it was actually an orange flavor. So it's the color, it's the aroma, it's the taste experience, to your point, that brings the full kind of picture together and buttons the bow on top, other than you just kind of getting a great formula, trying it, and like, ooh, that's gasoline tequila. That's going to be tough to put back. So it's the full experience these days, and taste has become more and more and more important, I would say, even just in my 8 to 10 years in the industry. Because I remember when I first got into it, you would put something back knowing the functionality, but knowing that you would not going to enjoy that experience. And so it's a very different world we live in now, where taste is king in a certain way.
I think my problem with all these things is that like contract manufacturers have all come to think that they can flavor just as well as like innovation labs can, right? Like PTM was here yesterday.
Yep.
He uses a lot of Sensapure. There's a lab in New Jersey that like literally all they do, and I don't want to give away like any of the brands that they work with, but I think Jocko's been kind of transparent of working with them, and sometimes you can see PTM baggies on Raw's stories and stuff, but like all they do is make flavor experiences for brands.
Yep.
They don't manufacture, they don't anything. They make it and they ship the readout, the instructions to a co-man. And what's huge about this, you guys kind of touched on it, is that if you're scaling, right? If you're going from having one contract manufacturer making your products to all of a sudden having 2, 3, 4, 5, you may or may not own the flavor system. And if you scale, you don't own that flavor system, you now have to call Sensapure and pay them a fair amount of money to flavor match it.
To reverse engineer, which is way tougher than just working with us up front to own your flavors. So that is an aspect of it. I think there are certain people that do it way better than others, and you mentioned PTM. I think they're one of the most impressive to me, and I think it's because they don't get bogged down into the relationships. They show what's best. And so you're kind of getting an iron sharpens iron type of product, whereas sometimes you're working at a co-man whose best friend helped him set up a company, and they're going to flood these guys' flavors no matter what. And that's great. I have a few of those co-mans that'll do that for me as well. But your customer's not getting the best product. It's not iron sharpens iron. It's this is what we want to sell you because this is who we want to work with. And sometimes that's great. But for brands, you need to be open. And I'm the first one to say, hey, if I can't do it for you, I have 3 to 4 other connections at past flavor companies that I'd love to connect you with, right? And you have to be a problem solver for people.
Yeah. The problem is that like being a good contract manufacturer in no way is linked to having a good applications team. Right, like you can manufacture very well and efficiently and understand manufacturing, and not understand the intricacies of like what Scott Zimmerman talks about.
They are different silos in a way, right? They don't translate in that way. It's great to have an internal applications team, but if they don't translate, right? Just because you run great products doesn't mean your internal applications team is making great products necessarily. Its formulas may be handed over from different people. So 100% to your point.
Yeah, and I think in today's day and age, it's never been easier to like flavor away protein. When we had our call with Derek Greer about the recent content that we did, we were talking about flavoring proteins, and we were talking about RTDs and going on, and then we were like, well, what about protein powders? And he was like, oh, that's easy. like, whatever. But then when you get into like today's day and age of like energy drinks like these, like this was not easy to flavor, or new pre-workouts with botanicals and all sorts of stuff. You're a run-of-the-mill contract manufacturer. I'm not going to say that most of them have bad flavor tech or anything like that. It's just the skill sets are not necessarily always going to be together, and manufacturers should be much more worried about like GMPs and quality and efficiency.
Yep.
So that's why we typically try to leave it to the experts like Sensapure's team.
And the way flavor chemists approach it is a lot different, right? So again, it's understanding the taste and where the taste receptors are being impacted. And you're building out bitter blockers that sit on your tongue and block certain receptors that allow a beverage to pass over without being perceived as bitter, as salty, as umami, as whatever botanical it may be. So I think, oftentimes when you get stuck in a situation where someone's doing a lot of the work for you at a co-man, because sometimes it's free and sometimes it's built into your production, and that's great. I love how co-mans do incentivize people to come in, because that's how they create stickiness in a way. But to the point is, they're just going to overload it sometimes. And one of my first flavor companies I worked for would put bitter blockers in everything. And I remember showing somebody, a bitter blocker and not a bitter blocker, and they're like, it did nothing. And I'm thinking the same thing, it did nothing. But sometimes flavor companies will do it. Sometimes applications teams will do it, because the more you sell, the more you make, right? So you're dropping in little things. So I think it's important to work with someone who's a transparent partner, understands your cost, understands ownership, right? If you want to build a brand and take it, if sometimes you build it with co-mans, their stickiness is holding that formula and that flavor system hostage. And so if you work with us, you own that, right? You own that, you scale that. If you're someone, like a big energy drink company that's looking to get acquired, having that ownership is the difference between maybe your valuation being cut in half or not.
I was actually going to bring this up because episode 106, we talked to Mike McCandless, who sold Scivation Xtend to Cellucor/Nutrabolt. And way back in the day when that acquisition happened, the Nutrabolt leadership mentioned flavor like multiple times. I don't even know if they realized it, but they mentioned it multiple times. And so they had tried multiple times to get into the amino acid market. They had Cellucor alpha aminos and stuff, which did taste really good, but they just never cracked the code. And Xtend was sitting there right there like with the code cracked and everything. And one of the things that Mike McCandless was very, very crazy about is that he wanted to own his flavors.
Yep.
And it turns out like we don't know how much money he made with that transaction, but and there was a lot of things they did, of course, that were successful. That was like one of the things that put him way over the top is by owning his flavors. Now it's like if you're running a 500 unit, pre-workout run and you're just you're going to work at the manufacturer and you're going to get what you get. Yep. But at some point, if you want to make the big boy decisions, you gotta own your IP.
We talk about extreme ownership. We were talking a little bit about that yesterday in the Jocko and Echelon front. Extreme ownership applies into a lot of things, right? But that's a key piece, right? Where we're seeing that focus emphasized more and more and more these days, right? And even if you're too small to work with us directly, but we can help get you to a co-man that understands your limitations, your MOQs, your needs, you can still have a way of owning those formulas and a touch point to the flavor company. So there's multiple ways to kind of have that relationship.
I've enjoyed the evolution of a lot of the conversations we've had on this podcast over the last few years about talking about the big boy decisions. A lot of people that listen to this podcast are engaged consumers who don't really care about the scale of a brand. But when you're talking about responsibility and how to do it right the first time, these are decisions that you may be bothered by the amount of money that you spent on the beginning, but you'll be thankful when it pays out at the end.
Definitely. And we try not to charge, right? We try not to charge for product development. We try not to charge for that. Do we have to vet the opportunity? Absolutely, because we don't want to waste anyone's time. And so we want to be transparent up front. If, hey, this is maybe a little too small for you, but there are flavor distributors, I'll call them, that don't necessarily manufacture their flavors, but buy a whole bunch and can sell you 5 to 10 pound partials. That's kind of maybe what you need sometimes to get going. So there's always an avenue, and we'll try to guide you to that avenue. Where I think Sensapure does best, we have that entrepreneurial spirit and that mindset that you ask us how to do something, we're not going to say it's not possible. We're going to say, here's the avenue, here's how to do it, and it may or may not be through us. So it's just being that problem solver, again, for people.
One of my favorite parts of what you guys do was during our trip, we were able to actually see the spray dryers, see how you guys make the powdered flavoring, which, like you mentioned, when you talk to a lot of flavor distributors here, they're not actually making it themselves. And I think we take a lot of pride in our partners being that kind of company that actually has their own hand in the creation of things, or isn't just selling someone else's product all the time.
Absolutely. Something we've done, and this is just plug-in Sensapure on something that we're constantly looking at what's next, right? So not just from the ingredient perspectives of partnering with really cool ingredients like Cognizant, Go BHB, Paraxanthine, whatever it is. We're constantly looking at what's next. I know you guys did a podcast with Solar Foods and Soline. So not only from an ingredient applications perspective of how our flavors will show in base of new challenging ingredients, we've even taken it a step further, and we've listened in the social world. The social listening, there's influencers out there these days that call for the removal of natural flavors because they don't understand maybe what's in those natural flavors. And there's all these chemicals.
Do you mean, wait, they want to remove the natural flavors?
They want to remove natural flavors from the label. So on their label, they don't want natural flavors.
They want artificial flavors in? Or?
No.
Wait.
So they want whole food components.
Oh,
so thinking like strawberry juice powder,
nice.
pineapple juice powder,
I see.
Coconut extract, a cocoa extract, vanilla extract.
Really? Okay.
And so we're seeing a little bit of a wave these days. And it's because flavor companies have to protect their IP, so they're not going to necessarily share the flavoring components. But when you're thinking of a flavor, they are chemicals and molecules, but they're extracted from natural compounds. That's what makes a natural flavor. But, Sensapure's taking that advice, instead of being offended, oh my gosh, you want to remove natural flavors, that's our whole sale, creating a solution for those brands and those customers and that portion of the market that wants to remove natural flavors from the label, and they want to use what we call flavors, not flavors, but it's strawberry juice powder, pineapple juice powders, lemon oil, lime oils to really drive some of the nuances. And it's never going to potentiate the same amount of flavor, but it's going to be much more clean label, much more natural, whole food kind of compliant in that way.
Well, this opens, okay, I guess I should have known this. Thanks for teaching me. That's why we podcast and everything. This opens up a whole new avenue, because I'm thinking, like, I don't know your business and everything, but if I'm you, can I start selling this as an active ingredient? Can I put your strawberry powder on, or like watermelon powder next to the citrulline on the actual active ingredients in the label, and now you got some cool stuff that's in the label too. You can become an ingredient company.
So there's less functionality of functional benefits, but these are whole food components, right? And there's different ratios of the way they're put together and things like that. In a future state, I think there's a way to introduce newer technologies, right? We're always looking at what's next. And so it's just, again, the social listening. It's the willingness to iterate so you don't die. And I come from flavor companies that refuse to kind of do that. And so it's very cool to see, right? Like, a great example was like Just Ingredients, vanilla bean extract, and keeping natural flavors off the label. But we're seeing it more and more and more. There's brands that want to kind of eliminate that aspect. And you can even combine it. There's synergistic benefits when you do a Sense of Naturals, which is our platform, versus a natural flavor. There's unique benefits there. It's also more clean label, but there's ways to remove natural flavors from the label. And so I think it's another cool approach that Sensapure is constantly evolving and looking at what's next.
Can you explain what Just Ingredients is doing? So they're removing natural flavor, and they're using, it just says vanilla extract.
Vanilla extract, strawberry juice powder, depending on what their flavors are, cinnamon powders, things like that, right? So they're removing that. They're putting that whole food, clean label, extremely clear label aspect out to their consumers, who look at it and say, oh my gosh, I know every single thing on this list.
Well, okay, who's driving this? Like, because I haven't, are there super consumers, early adopters who are like talking about what's in natural flavors and not liking it?
This has been a trend on LinkedIn. Like in industry, this has been a thing that people have been kind of predicting.
Yep.
I feel like
and it's the influencers. We live in an influencer creator world. We live in whether it's micro influencers, macro influencers, community influencers, whatever it is. People listen to people that they resonate with. I don't personally follow this influencer, but there's someone called the Food Babe, who I've heard quite a bit about, who makes these points. And again, whether it's fully informed or not, it's an opinion, right? And everyone's got an opinion, and opinions matter because opinions shape how other people think. And so it has been one of those conversations that's been going on, and we brought in a extremely technical resource who is phenomenal at what he does, and he's just shown us a different way to think about how we approach building flavors, but also building out solutions that are different than just a flavor offering.
All right, I understand. Okay, because there are things. Let's say you're an extraordinarily sick individual or whatever. You're going through liver failure and stuff. You probably don't want some of the aldehydes that might be in some of these flavor systems and stuff. And so I get that. But at some point, I think you just need to like have a very bland and boring diet if you're that sick.
Yep.
If you're the Food Babe, though, I guess like the fruit extract. So you have like natural flavors, which are more like extracts, right?
Yep.
And then you have these natural juice flavor systems, powders, or whatever, that I think would be cool as an active ingredient. Actually, aren't you going to still have some of the same chemicals inside, though?
So yes, if you take a strawberry and actually extrapolate a strawberry, put it through the mass spec GPC, you see it's got 40 to 60 naturally occurring chemicals,
right,
aroma molecules.
Right.
So there is, right? Is that conversation spoken about? Not in that same way, but there are. It's the same thing, and that's what natural flavors are built out of.
Knocking on a door here, Tyrus.
I get what I get.
Tomatoes have formaldehyde.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it depends on how long you let it sit. Like your banana, for instance, it's gonna eventually.
Age.
That's why, it gets bad, and that's anyway. And so that's why banana nut bread is great, because you can bake off the formaldehyde and stuff, and then banana nut bread is awesome again. But okay, so the whole point is, I see what Food Babe is doing here. This is one of those things where it's not my job to like criticize, oh, this is what the kids want, that's wrong, like they should be using powders instead of beverage. Like, okay, I'm not going to stop the trend here, but I do find that this particular trend is semi-absurd, although you can make a good opportunity out of it and actually pull some extra cool stuff in.
Could you explain why you think it's absurd? I'm really surprised you don't.
Okay, let's say that I'm Food Babe or whatever. I don't want to have this natural flavor that has this natural cinnamon flavor. It's cinnamaldehyde or whatever, and that's what gives it that aroma. I'm sure there's 40 other things that Scott could talk about or whatever. Okay, so let's just use cinnamon as an active ingredient instead of cinnamon flavoring. Cinnamon still has the cinnamaldehyde in it. The thing that I am possibly, let's say I'm like horribly allergic to cinnamon because I'm toxic in aldehydes and I'm toxic in cinnamaldehyde. No matter what, I'm still getting cinnamaldehyde in it. It's like, yeah, it smells really cool. It tastes really cool when you mix it with sugar. It's like all these things. It's in both of these different systems, right? That's like, okay, so I think this is where we need to like, maybe I'll stop talking because I might be wrong about some of this.
No, you're not. The only difference is it's recognizable to the consumer. One says cinnamon and one says natural flavor, and the consumer says, well, I don't know what natural flavor is, and I know what cinnamon is. Even if they don't know it to the extent that you do.
Yeah, okay.
The cinnamaldehyde being in there in that way.
Is there anyone in this booth that could speak to this conversation? I'm actually very...
We have some of our technical team. I get Jason on
Doing a
here.
lot of
Jason would be incredible to get on here.
I don't necessarily agree with the word absurd.
When I hear food babe, I just went towards the absurd.
It's hard not to. I totally understand. It's ironic what you're saying.
Yes.
Right? Because like even if it is a natural extract of cinnamon will still carry that. I think that we would also in a lot of ways say though, like if you use like a whole cinnamon powder, it's going to be a lot better of levels than a hypothetical situation where you are hyperdosing cinnamon.
A concentration form of it.
Yeah, I guess like the big thing at the end is we're generalizing a lot here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because these natural flavors are so proprietary that you don't know.
Yep.
Right? And that's to me, that's the only reason I don't think it's absurd is because I don't know what the natural flavor is.
Yep.
It could be a 99% extract of something that...
And it could be a 3% extract on maltodextrin.
Yeah.
Sprayed to a certain extent.
But I know for a fact that if we use generic cinnamon powder, it won't be in a crazy thing. And
you actually don't know because generic cinnamon powder can vary from batch to batch.
Yes.
And that's where Sensapure probably provides a good solution because yours is consistent. But I can find you some really bad cinnamon.
Sure. But my concern, if I was going to be concerned, is the possibility that it could be a 99% extract of like this one specific thing that I don't want.
Okay.
And it's completely proprietary as a natural flavor. That
almost like the proprietary blends. Like what's the ratio? I don't know what the ratio is. We went away from proprietary blends and formulas, but unfortunately, flavor companies would not exist without their flavor IP.
Right.
Sure.
And that is the secret sauce though. So I'm okay with that being proprietary and because I see what you guys go through and how many people have tried to reverse engineer Mountain Dew or White Monster. Like whoever made those flavors, they deserve to win. So I don't think they should have to open up that formula. That's me personally. Like
this kicks off another interesting topic, and I'd love to ask you guys. So like citric acid, obviously citric acid's in everything. Citric acid helps pop flavors, right, and flavor systems. But we have people asking for citric acid replacers now. Like, oh, can I get a natural or organic citric acid? Well, technically, citric acid is not naturally occurring in other forms, right? So we built out citric acid replacers, and it's a form of lemon juice concentrates that have the titratable acid levels that are replicable to a citric acid.
But I don't have problems with these things this year or a cinnamon powder or a watermelon powder because these are whole foods that we're making into a powder that's like you listed off like 4 different flavors, and I only remember watermelon and cinnamon, but both of those have functional reasons why you might put them into a product, right? It's kind of an interesting conversation.
Yeah, citric acid is a specific case where one of the issues is how it's made, and so you can get citric acid out of like fermenting black mold or something along those lines. And so that's where like a lot of people are not wanting that. To me, and this is where purity comes in, like a citric acid molecule is a citric acid molecule, but what's in the other 0.1% or whatever, and is it black mold still? So I understand that why people would want natural in this case. But if they're trying to keep acid levels low, and they just don't want the word acid on their label, you want lemon juice concentrate instead, you're still going to have acids, right?
Yep, it's titratable acid, and that's what's found in naturally occurring in lemon juice powders and lemon oils and things like that. It's just creating a solution that the consumer feels comfortable with and understanding the branding and how to help them tell the story.
But yeah, I guess so. It is like if you want, the way I'd approach it is having a more open label, natural citric acid type ingredient, but that'll cost way more than cheap citric acid.
Yep.
So you're doing it with the way you know how to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. Okay.
It's very case by case basis for me to like to describe like is this good or bad or absurd or whatever. Because I'm totally in agreement with you guys. It's easy for me to say like I like these ideas, but I definitely wouldn't be recommending this as some sort of legislation or regulatory thing. Like we have to do this type of thing.
No.
But I generally like the idea of using more whole food sources of things.
Right.
Right. Like and then when we get into like the ridiculousness of people like Food Babe like making assertions about what's good or bad, or
and there's going to be extremes on every level, right? So it's just fine. It's all a spectrum in a way. It's understanding where your customer lies and where you want to speak to them at.
But I like Mike's idea of putting it on the actives.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Like that's like you have a gut health product, and now we're using lemon powder in it, and like a lot of people use lemon in the first thing in the morning for gut health, right? Like there's some interesting. I don't know if you're going to be able to use like a label claim or anything, but it is kind of like label dressing of something that you would already be using a lemon flavor, and now that you're using actual lemon, like it can fit on the label kind of
yes,
well.
fits nicer on the label. And it's funny because like we've come so far. We were talking about the beginning, right? 10 years ago, flavor was not as important. You would throw something back. I think we've come so far where we made flavor so important that we're kind of backing off on it a little bit and understanding like, okay, I don't need that to be like the most super powered drink in the world. I actually had a customer tell me like they were trying to mimic a soda, and they said we've been told to make this soda taste memoryless. And so when you think of energy drinks, you think of a drink that hits you in the face right away, and you can't forget that flavor. And there's a lot of really strong things like that out there. And it was the first time in my 8-year career where I've had someone come to me and say, I want that flavor to be memoryless. And I'm like, memoryless? That's not good. Is someone going to buy it?
I still don't understand why. Like,
but you think
like a subtle flavor,
you
right?
think about it, it's so subtle. You can put it back so much that you don't realize you finished the whole can. And you're like, oh, well, I want another one. And you're almost trying to find the flavor in that one until it's gone. And it's an interesting concept in that way. Where it's so powerful. Sometimes you don't get through the 16-ounce can or something, and you want them to drink multiple. So
there's a lot of ways to describe what we're talking about. And memoryless wouldn't be like the way that I would do it. But I understand, like chuggable. Mike always uses chuggable.
Well, that's interesting. For the viewers, the consumers listening to this, let's say I have an energy drink, standard energy drink that retails for $3, $2.50, whatever. About how much of that? What is the cost per can of flavoring? Could you say?
So generally, if you're talking artificial, and you're talking about flavor systems more than just the flavor itself. So a flavor won't stand alone without a sweetener and an acid system. Generally, there's different ways to approach it, but I would say you're looking from 3 to 10 cents. If you're going organic, maybe 15 cents a serving, and you can kind of get a little more pricey. But you're talking about a serving. So you're talking about
artificial.
And so artificial, you can even dip as low as to like a cent or two per serving sometimes.
Okay.
So and again, per serving for an energy drink is 1 serving, but per a multi-serve powder tub, you have 30 to 60 servings sometimes. So it's understanding the cost that you can contribute. But I would say it's generally that 3 to 10 cents is all flavor is contributing to that overall cost.
And so if we were to listen to Food Babe and go like the complete opposite direction and stuff, like how much Xing are we doing to our costs here?
So you can probably go anywhere up from 2 to 4x, I would say.
Okay.
You can really get really layered and intricate and complicated, and these natural solutions, right? These juice powders and things like that, they don't potentiate as much flavor. So then you're trying to drive more, so you're using more, and they cost more. So it depends on how much you're trying. If you're trying to make a lemon juice powder taste like XPO Energy, you're going to use 5 times the use rate to try to drive that flavor home. So sometimes it's not possible, right? And so it's understanding the taste, the solution, the labeling, the brand messaging. But there's a couple different angles to take it that way.
Okay, so that's obviously going to increase cost, and I think the people that listen to a Food Babe type person are willing to pay that.
Well, and they sacrifice for that. Yep, and that's what they're It's a little bit less flavor, but I know exactly what's in it, and it tastes super natural. And if I have to pay a $10 premium for it, I'm okay with that.
On the flip side, though, when we are talking about energy drinks and who the top players are,
yes,
let's just go down there like Red Bull, Monster, Celsius, Rockstar, and then the next tier down you have Alani, C4, Ghost. What kind of sweetener are they all using?
Sucralose.
All of them are using sucralose, and we keep like running into this thing where we're going to do this awesome thing, and it's going to be naturally sweetened. And
we talked yesterday. One of my favorite protein brands that I've told you guys about is Planta, Ambrosia Collective Planta, and it's a plant protein with sucralose. Like you're already some of our customers are already sacrificing when they go from whey to plant. Why am I going to make them battle uphill to try to get them to drink this if it's naturally sweetened?
There's only so many things that I think that you can ask a consumer to get over. That's just how I think about it. Like, how many barriers to getting them to buying, enjoying, and rebuying a product are you willing to fight through?
And you want to eliminate as many of those barriers, to your point, as you can, because you want repeat purchases.
Plant proteins are already gritty. You know, they already have an incomplete amino acid profile, and I'm sure like all these things can be addressed.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, they're not a whey protein. They'll always can be compared to whey proteins, which are almost always going to be tastier, better experience, cheaper, better aminos. Like no matter what, there's always going to be a comparison. And now on top of that, you're going to have them drink it with a natural sweetener. Like that's just. You're asking for a lot.
Yes.
And we found this a couple years ago, is that people who were buying plant proteins weren't necessarily buying them for the natural aspect because they didn't want dairy.
Yep.
Yeah, and Ghost is another one who did the same thing. I'm not sure who was first. Like Ben was recently on Mark Lobliner's podcast. Hopefully we'll get that up pretty soon. But yeah, so I'm not sure who was first between Planta and Ghost, but there's a few key ones, and the good ones are Sucralose. I've said this because I'm generally more of a natural eater. If anything, I'm a pretty boring eater, and I could have my 4 different meals and I'm set for life and everything.
Creature of habit in a way, because you can trust it.
When I'm in this world, and I said this on our first podcast with Brian Littlefield, you make your bets at some point in life. And if I am going to have to pick a sweetener, it's one molecule.
Yep.
And that molecule is sucralose. Because I know exactly what that one molecule is doing down the path more than I know of a spray of stuff from all these different glycosides and different ingredients. So even though it sounds hypocritical, because I do like more quote unquote natural stuff in general, I try not to defer to this the appeal to nature fallacy. And for me, I know that sucralose is better. I know that it's one chemical that my body deals with pretty well. I'm getting old and I'm doing okay, and so whereas with the natural sweetening systems, and I know that the trend is going against me, and that's okay. I'll just be the old guy yelling at the clouds in TikTok or something like that. But
yelling at the clouds. What are the streaks called in the sky again?
Don't get him started.
We'll go on that a different topic.
Chris Waldrum, episode 69 for that one.
That was a good one.
I've actually calmed down about some of that stuff anyway. But no, so
that was a good plug.
No, we don't need to get into that right now, especially after
Texas.
After Texas. So, and it's sad. Anyway, I'll be the old guy who I know the trend is going against me, but I still think I'm right, and sucralose tastes better. And so what we've told Sensapure is that we want to see a couple sucralose-based
concepts
here, and then the natural.
Yes. And I think you can make natural things taste really great. There is natural taste. The cost is going to be more, and you can. So, take Solein, for example. Every concept we showed with Solein protein here, we did with sucralose. And the cinnamon bun flavor, to me, is to die for. You get the cream cheese notes. You get the bun. It's phenomenal. What we've done since then is actually work on a neutralizing natural flavor system. Right, and we've made it taste. We've muted it, and now we can give that to co-mans to build from. And so there are ways to naturally sweeten things, but again, taste is king. And what do you want to win on? Like you said, to your point, the top 10 out there are sucralose. And we deal with people all the time where they're like, "Hey, we're natural, but can you just turn one of those flavors into sucralose so we can see how it performs?"
Dude.
And we do, and they're like, "Oh, what do we do next?"
So a couple of weeks ago, I got put through the ringer of learning flavoring from Joey Savage, and I did multiple versions of things to kind of be able to be to have controls to see all right, here or there, if we change these different things, how does it move? Different acids, different amounts of flavoring and all this stuff. One of the biggest things, as a side note, that made the wildest difference was adding salt.
They call me Salt Bay at Sensapure.
Oh, dude.
Because it's the one contribution that I throw to everybody. They're like, "Can you pop this flavor a little more? Can you pop this flavor a little more? Are you okay with salt? It's cheaper than putting more flavor in."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's 100 to 200 milligrams of salt, depending what you're open to. Pops like crazy. So,
and our phone call with Derek Greer, he also mentioned with proteins, you got that astringency.
Yes.
Salt will make the mouth water, and it takes away some of that astringency with some of the dairy, the whey proteins, and all that.
Yeah.
So learning from that, adding salt to some of our to my daughter's sweet foods and stuff, it works so well.
It actually enhances the flavor more.
So go back to what you were with Joey.
So we had these verticals where we created flavor systems with different variables, and then after we finished all of it, with Sucralose, I went back and did it with Sweet Vantage, because while I am a fan of Sucralose, I think there's a lot to say. I do think Sucralose has better safety data. I do think overall I prefer Sucralose for all the reasons that Mike said, even though I prefer natural things, whatever. All those things said, Sweet Vantage is. I wanted to work with it myself.
Yeah.
I've tried it a couple times.
I think it's elite sweet, naturally sweet stuff.
I did a video sweetening coffee with it, and I was blown away by it. So I was like, okay, I want to do one final version. So I put all the Sucralose stuff over to the side, stopped tasting it, and we spent a couple hours on this over here with Sweet Vantage. And by the time I got to the end, because you have to do it differently. It is different than Sucralose.
Yes.
You have to flavor differently. When we finished that concept, Joey and I are like, oh my God, this is so good. I can't believe, Sweet Vantage is so effective, so tasty.
Go back and taste that.
We're like orangutans. Like, we've discovered fire. You know what I mean? Like, it's so good. And I'm like feeling real good about myself because I'm doing all this. And Joey's just like laughing off the side like
just
a proud
waiting,
parent.
Just waiting.
And we finish it and he goes, all right, now I want you to compare the Sweet Vantage to the Sucralose. And I love Sean Wells. I love Kylan Lau. I love all these people.
Yep.
Ton of respect for what they've done with Sweet Vantage. It's an incredible blend. You ever see V for Vendetta? The end when they blow up Parliament and the overture of 1812 plays? It's like, and like fireworks are going off. That is the difference. Like Sweet Vantage, delicious, wonderful. Mm-hmm. There is like this robust effect to Sucralose that you just don't find with not just Sweet Vantage, but like glycosides in general. It's stevia. It's thin. It's doable. And if you want something that is sweetened naturally, it can be done. It can be effective. But the second you compare any sort of stevia glycoside, whether it's a blend or an isolated, the second you compare that to a Sucralose, it's unfair. It's just unfair. And I prefer Sucralose.
Yeah, and the companies, they all know this. You pick your demographic.
Yes.
And if it is naturalistas, then you're going to go with the natural sweetenings, and that's where Sweet Vantage is winning, in my opinion, right now. But if you want to sell at the gas station to every single contractor who's coming to lay bricks and work on the house and all that stuff, guys working on the road who buy energy drinks by the caseload, it's Sucralose.
Yep.
So, any comments on Ace K from you guys?
Oh, so that was the other thing too.
Yes.
Is the ratio? This is the cool thing about how I wanted to do it like a scientific method of like, okay, if this works, how does this there's like primary, secondary, tertiary, like how do these things change? The ratio of Sucralose to Ace K,
very
that's
important.
like the next level of like, okay, it's sweet, but now how much tastier can we make it? And the ratio between Sucralose and Ace K was really
and Sucralose has a high peak, hits up front, really high, but starts to drop. Ace K peaks at the end, doesn't peak at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's synergistic benefits, just like in natural sweeteners. Same kind of thing. Monk fruit's the tail end of the palate. Stevia is generally the front end of the palate. Where you get in trouble on the natural sweeteners is the natural sweeteners impart their own level of taste and bitter at some points. Obviously Sweet Vantage, great option. A standard stevia Reb A, we've come a long way from a standard stevia Reb A because you use that to a certain extent. Now you're putting bitter back in. Sucralose has natural bitter blocking properties. So it's a very different experience, to your point, of how you build something, because it's a whole different process.
Yeah, and that was kind of what was fun about it, was we were really dealing with, Sucralose and Ace K as a ratio, and then Sweet Vantage and allulose.
Yep.
Right? Like there's these different ratios of, like you said, that well-rounded. But dude, the rounded, I call it robust. The flavor of Sucralose and Ace K.
It's almost unmatchable. It's one of the best artificially sweetened kind of combos. But I think Joe, I went down and did the podcast with Joey and kind of did like a Cooking with Rachel Ray type podcast with him. And I've been in the flavor industry for 7-8 years, and some of the stuff I learned from him, again, it's just different acids, how acids will bring things out, right? The naturally occurring acid, tartaric acid for grape and malic for apples and bear and certain things that way. So just the ratio of acids you use could be a citric to malic ratio. It's all about that specific ratio that allows those peaks to hit at the right time so that you're not having a gap in the taste experience or losing the tail end of it.
I was ranting to Mike about this. Abe Energy came out with a strawberry orange.
Yep.
And I just happen to be like a flavor guy now, so I'm like,
Ben's gotten all into it. I gotta say,
love
it's
this.
awesome having been in.
But it's like proprietary blends all over again, right? Because now if you look at the other ingredients, you can look at the dosage of citric acid, you can look at the dosage of these things and figure out where they are, right?
Yep.
So this was a strawberry orange, right? It was the 10 collab. They use citric acid because it's an orange, it's citrus, but they didn't have any tartaric acid for the strawberry. And so you end up with citric acid on that berry, and it's like those strawberry candies, the chewy ones.
Yep.
I love those, don't get me wrong.
Too, yeah.
But a candy strawberry with a natural orange doesn't really make sense. And it was funny, it's like oddly really good and oddly not right. And it's like, I can't stop drinking it because it's wrong, but it's also like enjoyable. But that I also came to think that was all UK development team. And I think that's an interesting thing is that like we as Americans have very specific palates.
I have some funny stories on that one.
Yeah. Well, we talked with Solar Foods yesterday
Yes.
about why did they come to Sensapure?
Yep.
They're like, because we're not American. And you guys understand the American palate, right? And it really makes you like understand like, I've tried some stuff from overseas, and they're like, this is the best thing we have over here. And I'm like, this is not good, dude.
Taste is extremely subjective, and that was one of the funny experiences I had working for a company that did a lot of international business in my previous place. We had a customer come in, and their product was a cookies and cream. And then they wanted us to match the flavor profile. So we did, and we showed it to them, and they were like, this is amazing, thank you so much. And then we said, hey, just taste against the other cookies and creams that we have in market, right? So you get the Ghost, you get the other guys out there, right? And they taste all of these guys, and you're like, well, holy hell, what is ours? And I'm like, well, that's chocolate hazelnut. You have a Nutella. You're calling it cookies and cream, and it's selling extremely well.
Huh.
But our Nutella is selling over in London right now as a chocolate or as a cookies and cream, and it's a Nutella flavor. So it just shows you profile-wise, it's completely different. But let alone sweetness, portion size. There's so many different experiences that contribute to that taste factor. But spice was another one. We worked on a seasoning project, and they're like, oh my gosh, this fettuccine Alfredo is spicy. Well, the only thing in it was pepper, black pepper. And so it was, again, just this perception of different profiles. And so they were like, well, that's way too spicy. So we did a panel, sensory panel, and the panel came out as like a 1 out of 10 for like over 100 participants. And it was like, oh, that's statistical analysis, that's statistical data to show you that this is not spicy. We could actually probably increase this a little bit. Like the just about right scale, everyone's like, this is not enough. And so it's interesting, right? Taste is very subjective. But that's why, we do international business here at Sensapure, and it's more for those customers looking for American flavor profiles. If they're looking for that localized UK, London, apple, peach, strawberry profile, it's going to be different than what we provide. And so that's a unique aspect to it, which, I think is the expansion of Sensapure eventually to have some overseas facilities. But we do a good amount of business international with people looking for the American taste profile.
So yeah, to clarify, is it because they're trying to get their products into America, or because their customers?
They're consumers.
So are you still dialing it down a little bit, or are you giving them full America?
Oh, they're getting full America, full send on it. I mean,
yeah.
there's some, there's a great energy drink company based out of Australia that has, great flavors, and they do well here too, but they do really well over there. And I know I've heard Dubai is a market that's looking for American profiles. Latin America, we've had a lot of people lately like reaching out to us. Hey, they have the big 4 flavor companies are in their backyard, and they're like, hey, can we get some flavors for you guys that are, nostalgic and candy? And we get them to them like, oh my God, this is night and day different than what we have. And it's just because of that perception of taste. Taste is key, and it's nice to have locations internationally, and you can, do a Myers, a Valencia orange, all these different kind of nuances, a Calamansi lime, right? Madagascar vanilla. Like, it's cool to have sourcing capabilities in those regions, and we still do. But that's the key aspect of the difference is the taste profile is different. And so we're winning international business for customers looking for American taste profiles for their consumers.
Exporting our awesomeness everywhere.
Spreading freedom and liberty
One
via
taste
flavor.
bud at a time.
Bomb pop, here you go.
All right, Tyrus, so personal notes, like what flavors do you need to see on the market? Is there anything that hasn't been done that's like got to get done? Are you...
Give the pitch, Tyrus. You know me. I know where you're going.
I wasn't setting up anything. I was asking. No, but
he was setting me up in my mind.
I
appreciate you. So it's funny. I was actually I went down to MacroCap recently and sat on them and talked with them, and they said, what is the number one flavor that people ask for that are extremely disappointed when they get it? And I said, dragon fruit. People think it's this amazing thing, and their perception of their mind. How many people are eating dragon fruits consistently? And so that's the flavor to me that great potential, but it's dragon fruit combinations, right? Because dragon fruit by itself is really disappointing. For me, what I think is next, and it's been around, right? But it's the personalization. We talk about being a creator and influencer world these days. Sensapure partnered with a pro sports agency. So we're doing signature flavors for these athletes to help tell their story. And a perfect example, which hasn't come to market and may not, is Lauri Markkanen. He's from Finland, and he doesn't eat pears, but pear is his favorite flavor. And it's a Finnish pear. And so we included a Finnish birch oil in his pear. And we're showing him this pear flavor in a variety of different bases. And these athletes will then approach the market, they're, whether the NIL in college or whether Liquid IV or someone reaches out to them and says, we want you to be an ambassador. We've now given them a custom tool to add to their agreement with some of these people. And so it's not, it's not new. There's been signature flavors. There's been brand ambassadors. There's been that. But it's this personalized aspect now where the consumers want to resonate with somebody. And so that, to me, I think is, that's the next wave. It's not even just athletes. It's movies, it's music, it's culture, it's media. Obviously, one of the biggest brands in the industry that made it big, right? Just sold for quite, $1 billion plus, right? And so people are looking into different ways to tell stories with flavors. So I don't think there's necessarily a flavor that hasn't been done, other than maybe a Pluot, like Joey Savage put me on to two Arnolds ago. I had never had a Pluot, still haven't to this day, but we have a killer Pluot flavor for anyone out there that wants one. But that's to answer your question. That's what I think. It could be the same strawberry lemonade, a different ratio. It could be the lemonade we did for Expo West with a pink lemonade top note. It's just a personalization, right? There's so many different angles to take to it. There's so many different stories to tell. We have a WNBA athlete who's from the Bahamas, and so bringing that culture into the flavor experience of whatever product she wants to partner with.
All right, so with this pitch, take us through like your proposed how this works. Let's say I'm the WNBA player that is from the Bahamas, and I love the tropical
bubblegum flavor, whatever.
Oh, really? Okay.
Tropical bubblegum or something like that.
Okay, cool. So the idea is that you bring her in to Salt Lake City, you develop a tropical bubblegum flavor,
yep.
And
we showcase it in a variety of different bases, but just to get it to a point where she's happy with.
Right.
And then she may have current brands that are already working with her.
They're like courting her, working with her.
Larger brands, and she can now pitch that to them of, this is my kind of, if I'm going to work with you, I want my flavor, this is it. And it also increases their side of the deal. But another angle is allowing brands to come to us and ask, how can we help them increase their distribution? Because that's one of the biggest things about these collabs is it's not necessarily the largest volume seller. Not everyone's going to resonate with Lauri Markkanen's pear flavor, but it increases visibility. It could increase your distribution. Maybe now that the Delta Center, where the Salt Lake City, the Utah Jazz play, maybe now that's their energy drink of the stadium, right? So it increases your distribution, it increases your exposure, it increases your ability to tell a story and attract new customers.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about before about owning your flavor system as a brand,
yep.
as a celebrity or a creator or whatever. It would just be a standard that you could own and take to any partner who comes to you. If you get picked up by whoever it is.
Gatorade, heaven forbid, right? That'd be amazing. It'd be an awesome opportunity. But they do some stuff like that, a little bit less custom. But those big guys have their own internal flavor companies. But that's where I see Sensapure, similar to working with startups that take off and then get acquired by big companies. Now they're like, well, who the hell is Sensapure flavoring these guys? We're starting to see them more and more. Same thing with the athletes. Like, okay, well, big brands are reaching out to the next Caitlin Clark, the next, influencer that way to say, hey, how can we get you involved? And if we can capture them first and kind of be on the front end there.
Yeah, the NIL thing makes sense. They catch a really good content creator early and stuff. They don't have to be the best athlete.
Nope.
Like, if they have following it,
it's who's the best community builder. Sometimes the best athletes are horrible salespeople. Sometimes the best movie stars are horrible salespeople. Sometimes influence doesn't necessarily mean sell through.
Right.
It's how much of the community resonates with you and how you can build. It's a community building, just like a brand.
So would Sensapure Flavors be co-branded with some of that stuff, or?
So we could be. We're usually behind the scenes, you know, and we always kind of stay behind the scenes, and we're okay with that. We do have a content-friendly facility that our customers and brands can come into to help share that story, and we're happy to do that.
You guys do such a great job with the branding. I love being at this booth every time.
When Cody came in and he did some of the videos in their facility too, it was really good work and everything. That's what I think is hilarious about, like, when you were pitching like kind of the Expo Energy type concept to your former employers. It's like, your logo is not on anything, dude. Like, we would love to get your logo on this. Like, why not? It's a collaborative drink and everything. So to me, it makes sense. Like, ingredient suppliers, you have a trademarked ingredient, patented ingredient. Chances are they're going to get their logo on it.
Yes.
But none of us have ever had the logo on a drink. So, like, it totally makes sense for a flavor house. You guys deserve the love, because the project, you're going to have the best formula in the world. As we know, the project it sinks without the proper flavor.
Yep.
So you deserve a little bit of logo love, in my opinion.
No, and I
Kinda like
appreciate that.
Kind of like contract manufacturers, very few brands are going to be willing to give away the secret sauce of Tyrus.
And some do, and I think we're in a world now, like, an amazing example to me, and a Target brand that I would love to work with, right? It's like IM8. It's this whole food component, formula. I think David Beckham's involved. I think they just got on Ariana Sabalenka, which I'm like, they could go with somebody else, in my opinion, but that's okay. But it's a really cool product, right?
Sorry, is that a WNBA player?
She's a tennis player. She's a tennis pro.
Sorry.
She's the one that always complains when she loses. I don't like a sore loser.
Oh, okay.
Like, losing is a part of life. You lose and you learn. You don't, point fingers at other people. But
Tyrus is a big
I love
WNBA
it.
follower.
I'm a
Sports Tyrus,
WNBA.
yeah.
I'm a sports in general. I can tell you about it. So, but cool. They have a cool athlete message. They have cool this. On their website, it says manufactured at VitaQuest.
That's cool.
And it's like, holy hell. So I called, this is really cool, man.
Nice.
Like, most people aren't going to do that. Most people aren't going to give you the secret sauce these days. And again, sometimes it's not like we're not on the label, but if we do a really good job on someone's project, they're like, hey, I want my friend who has this project to also win. Can you guys help them? And so we're starting to become in that world a little bit where it used to be really close to chest, and now it's not as much. I mean, this XPO Energy, not only was it a phenomenal concept, but the engagement that we got post was its credibility in a can, its visibility, its exposure. There's so many different avenues to it.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. It also shows the downside, because Macrocap doesn't pick up the phone when I call them anymore because they're too busy.
Hey, I mean, if that's a shout out to you guys. And I know I put you
We
guys
did our job.
on. I put you guys onto a few brands where I'm like, the amount of exposure that you guys can create is phenomenal, and that's to the point of these collaborations. Collaboration happens at the top, competition happens at the bottom, and that's the generation that we're starting to be in these days.
I think people used to be worried, like, oh no, they'll find my contract manufacturer and like they'll all of a sudden be able to do better than I do somehow or something. And that's not really the case. Line time is quite valuable. So I do sometimes understand that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But like,
we were talking about a funny example of that, I think, yesterday.
With Epigee?
Epigee and all that kind of stuff, right?
Like, it's a very interesting story.
Hey, if you guys want to buy out all of our flavor capacity, please come buy Sensapure.
Yeah.
But, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, but I guess I had somewhere I wanted to go with all that, and I forget where it was. Oh, you were mentioning brands that are kind of transparent. Jocko on our podcast.
Yep.
We literally like, do you want to mention where you get your stuff made? He's like, Simpson Labs, great guys. Love working with them. Like, go to Simpson Labs. You're not going to build Jocko's brand on your own. Like, you don't have Jocko Willing. Sorry.
No, it's not, and you can have the exact same product, and it's not going to sell the same way. You can have the exact same, you have the exact same flavor, right? So that's the other thing that people worry about is like, well, this Coleman has this flavor, they're going to use it in my. You can have the exact same flavor in two products with different bases, and they'll taste completely different. And so it really is a custom aspect to everything. But to your point, like, that's beautiful. That's how this industry has pushed the needle forward.
Yeah.
And instead of holding everything close to chest, it's Simpson Labs does really great work. And now the next up and coming person is starting there versus churning their money at a bunch of other places, and you're building true, authentic partnerships and collaborations in the industry.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we sit here and we talk about formulas or ingredients or flavor technology and all the stuff that goes into a product, and we don't quite necessarily talk about the amount of things it takes to be successful in selling through on that product. Although, obviously always going to be a proponent for quality manufacturing and ingredients and stuff. You could have all of these things, and if you don't have the proper, whatever it is, go-to-market strategy, whether it's retail, e-commerce, distribution, whatever, like, you're not going to touch any of these successful brands.
And that's why, the ready-to-drink beverage space, we've talked about this, has become super, super saturated because there's lower MOQs for people to get into the market these days. But their distribution strategy is destroying people. The slotting fees to stay on shelves. As soon as you start getting successful, what's going to stop the bigger brand from paying higher slotting fees to remove you entirely from the cooler?
Yeah.
So we tell RTD brands that come to us all the time, start in a powder, start in a stick pack, build a community. Eventually, the margin-wise of your stick packs can be way better than your RTD. That stick pack could pay for your RTD. If you have an unsuccessful RTD, let's turn it into a stick pack. Work with someone like Simpson Labs, who has a 3PL and works with TikTok Shop and GoPuff and can deliver direct to consumer in mass markets. Build a community that way. It's all about building community. I think people get so caught up on the beginning goal and the end goal. I mean, there's a journey, and that's part of that journey is understanding the marketing, the distribution, the consumer, and how the consumer changes, right? I mean, there's products that have been out there forever. Some legacy brands, like an example for me is like Herbalife. Herbalife's it's when I grew up, I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, the best soccer player in the world, connected to Herbalife. I don't know if I've seen innovation. I don't know if they're still around. I know Beachbody went from Beachbody to Body and changed their name, but what else changed? So there's some of these legacy people that will just sit out there. The market's going to change as well. Your consumer is going to age. Are you aging with them? Are you focusing on the next generation? That next generation wants to be spoken to differently. So it's an interesting, constant iteration type of world, and to have someone like a flavor company on your side is a great avenue to understand how that changing them. Gen Alpha. Are we formulating for Gen Alpha already? Gen Alpha flavors, what they're looking for.
What ages or what years born?
I think it's like, I want to say 14, 15 and under now.
Okay.
14 and under. It's the newest generation, right?
So they're born a little
kids.
bit around 2010.
I think so.
After. Okay,
I would say,
so,
yeah.
Okay, so like kids that are coming up who shouldn't be drinking energy drinks, but some of them I know for a fact are at pretty early ages.
It's funny to say. So it's hilarious. We've come a long way. But back in high school, I remember my freshman year playing in the varsity tournament in high school. I took 4 or 5 hour energies in the same day, and I was 14. So I mean, kids have been drinking energy drinks for a long time. Monster was my absolute favorite growing up. The green Monster. I was like, what the heck is this?
You used to consume
Smack energy drinks. I went to the hospital one time when I was younger because my heart rate my resting heart rate dropped below like 30 beats per minute, and I was like lethargic and knocked out. I learned a lot about caffeine inputs and things like that as a very young age.
I feel like that caffeine's had a long-term effect on you and just never stops.
Well, and
now you're like this all the time.
So maybe that's part of it. You never know, right? But that's the marketing story, the colors, right? The imagery draws people to it. And especially at a young age, I grew up in Kentucky where a lot of stuff was maybe not as regulated as it should have been from my parents as well, possibly.
It's funny to me because, I think most energy drink consumers are completely oblivious to the amount of things that go into marketing these products to them. We post this on the online and it goes viral, like most expensive energy drinks ever been, best energy drink, whatever you want to call it. And we've got 200 comments. Why won't you sell this? Because it would cost $20. I always thought Jocko did a great job on his podcast because he would talk about like the war that goes on. That's my impression of Jocko.
Yep.
In convenience stores where people are literally paying millions of dollars for slotting on the shelf.
Where you
have to
see
pay.
it.
Yeah, you have to pay to get the spot on the shelf, and even then, you're getting put at like knee height or like some awkward spot because Pepsi has eye level the entire slot, and you have to work. You have to pay them. You have to send people in the field to make sure that they're selling through and being consumed. It's hilarious because I'm sure you see this because you kind of mentioned a little bit when brands come to you. These people are like, I want to be the next energy drink brand, but they have no distribution team. Like we started seeing a lot more of like our friends getting into drinks, and they don't have sales teams; they have consumption teams, right? Like you have to make sure that store is seeing an absolute trajectory, or they'll kick you. Because Monster has 7 new flavors coming next year with Lando Norris.
Yep.
And all of them. The lowest selling SKU is going to outsell your entire company. And people don't understand that.
That's crazy. Or you could do what 7-Eleven did. Come up with your own energy drink, which I think was pretty brilliant. And I'm not sure how it's really working out for them or anything, but I think it's brilliant. There's some of them over at the PLT.
They doubled down. There's shots now. They just launched last week.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Same company with Fusion shots with Self-Low 6 in it.
There you go. Very cool.
I think it's pretty cool that they really kind of invested in quality ingredients.
And they are their own distributor. So for them, it makes sense. Private label beverages are picking up more and more, and it makes sense when you have that distribution. But if you don't have that distribution, think about how you are going to get it to somebody.
All right, here's what I want to pitch to the world. Buc-ee's. Let's do a Buc-ee's energy drink. We're going to get together. We'll help formulate it, and Sensapure is going to flavor it. Don't need our logos on, but we'd like it.
It's going to be vanilla flavored.
It's going to be awesome.
Do you know why?
Because
we had this conversation.
Because it's a beaver. And beaver butthole vanilla. Yeah. Dude, I felt like I saw Scott's soul leave his body when I brought that up on the podcast.
That was one of the funniest.
I'm so sick of this joke.
But no, you made a funny point. Things like
had to
that
ask
go
him.
viral. If you call something Beaver Anus Vanilla, people would be like, "What in the hell? Let me try this." I said, made a joke. So Dude Wipes was at the Expo West show recently, and it's like Expo West is like
killing
a food trade show. A consumer goods trade show, I guess you could go to that extent. But they were there, massive booth, and Dude Wipes, the trajectory again, just kind of like Liquid Death. It's a marketing genius in a way, right? But I'm like, what's to stop somebody from going up to Dude Wipes and saying, let's do a flavor collab that's a gut health soda, and we call it Poopy Pants Peach. And it goes viral on TikTok. And then it's out there for 1,000 cans and it's gone, but it just creates a viral moment, right? And it's all about creating these viral moments in people's lives where they resonate with that. And that might not be the viral moment, but I sure as hell would pick it up and be like, what the hell is this? And if it came with a pack of Dude Wipes, I'd be like, what a cool collab, right?
That would be a cool collab.
So-
I have some ingredients to pitch for that.
Exactly.
All right.
There's some good gut health, things that you could play in.
You started down that road, and I was like, "That's where the food comes out on the other ends." And you went there, and I was like, "Wow, we are there right now."
But it's a full experience.
Are you thinking April Fools, or just
Why not?
Put it in Target.
Why not?
Do it.
just go all the way?
You know what I'm saying? There's so many
It is.
different angles to tell a story with flavors. And that's what I think is people need to have fun with it. People need to do it. And the brands that do it the best do it authentically. They have fun with it. They lose quick. Like to your point, maybe it's not the nationwide launch, right? But it's in certain demographics in certain cities. Maybe it's a campaign with GoPuff and it creates a viral moment or whatever it is. But it's things like that. So,
But that's the thing, though, is like even if that's not even close to a top-selling SKU, we would be talking about it.
exactly.
All of us would be talking about it, and that's one thing that I've learned running a media company is like, if people are talking about you, you are winning.
What came up yesterday was Basic Whey. Their April Fool's joke
Oh, that we
was
did.
buffalo chicken wing flavored whey protein. And no, you don't mix it as a shake, but you do this and this, that with it. And they're like, well, how many do they sell? I'm like, it was just like a run of like 500 or 1,000. It doesn't matter because we are still talking about it.
Yeah.
Like how many months later?
It was a 3-figure run.
Yeah. All
know?
right.
That was one of my
And-
favorite videos that Cody did. I'm not
a
gonna
great
lie,
video
one of the
too.
coolest
Yeah.
videos.
Everyone was talking about
Yup.
it.
Yeah.
There were wholesalers calling. There were international people calling saying, I want this in Colombia or whatever. And they're like, we didn't make it for you. Like, we're not, but people are talking about it. You're winning, right?
Yep.
It's so I should say it's not just about people talking about you. It's about your ability to monetize and execute on that viral
Yes.
moment, which a lot of people miss.
And execute on the momentum. People lose
Yeah.
that momentum. It's really staying on top of the momentum. As soon as you lose that momentum, it's gone. It's like my wife is in the creator space. She's like, if you're an influencer and you get a viral moment, let's say Love Island. We were talking about Love Island last night. Like this Amaya girl has about 10 million brand deals that are about to come her way. That's momentum. If she
What
gets,
did she do? Or is
She
this-
was just on Love Island. So Poppy.
She won a dating
reality show.
It's like Survivor.
Oh, okay.
But you have to.
But you
Did
have
she
to-
do anything crazy, or she
was just genuinely a good person.
Oh, awesome.
She was,
Okay.
and
How
it's
refreshing.
cool to see genuine people win.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what did Poppy do? They mocked up Amaya Papaya. And it's tying culture into flavors. It's tying things like that. It's capturing momentum is the key thing.
I hate reality TV, but like,
I'm
I feel like I have
I'm
to
a
watch
slut
these
for
to
reality
keep
TV.
up.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
I didn't
But
know it was
that's
still a thing
viral
with
moments.
YouTube. Right.
Viral moments, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of it is just having your finger on the pulse of how to put a story to a flavor.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to someone about this show, and they were kind of complaining that in last seasons it's felt a lot more authentic, and this year it felt a lot more produced, and like the people on the show were mostly looking for sponsorships for their content creation.
Yes.
Which is,
that's
I mean,
great.
it's just funny because like you think of like athlete endorsement deals over the years, where like it's always been a thing. It's just that like the quote unquote sport is now becoming the content creation.
Yes.
Right. The medium now it's not Dale Earnhardt anymore. Now it's
Earnhardt.
Maya Papaya, right? Like it's
Earnhardt.
okay. Go for it. It's all about like where these people are and where they're getting their following.
Meet them where they are. And
Yeah.
there's a huge opportunity there. And flavors is a great way to meet people where they are. Formulas, sometimes you have to explain them. You have to kind of bring people in. Flavors is the easiest place to meet someone where they're at. And just like music, a flavor can bring you right back to a moment in time where you've heard that song and you're like, oh, it was my first kiss. It was my first time at a school dance, whatever it was. Flavor can do the exact same thing on a hot summer when you ran inside and you're like under the faucet to run back outside with your friends. Whatever it is, there's a memory that can be traced back to.
What's the second time in this week that you've made like a hose water taste joke?
It's one of my favorite jokes. I used to stand up in class and say, hi, my name is Tyrus. I like the smell of hose water. And sit down. as like a fun fact, right?
Have you recreated that flavor?
It could be created in a fun way.
Flavor, whatever metal.
But it's
that
like,
is
what is that
drinking?
movie? I forget what the movie's called. It's such a bad movie. Sandberg. Andy Sandberg guy. Hot Rod.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hot Rod.
I was gonna say before we got on here, every time I drink one of these, I was talking about, it's always puts me in a good mood. It reminds me of a very fun time, and it's also just a great flavor as well. But I know what you mean. There are some nostalgic flavors that just never get old for me personally, and especially when we go through like collabs, especially like you get to try that flavor, and it takes you to a different time, which is just so wonderful.
No, it is. And so just the last plug on Sensapure, flavors are growing, right? We're expanding into another 75,000 square foot facility in Lehigh. So the flavor world is evolving. And for the longest time, the flavor world has been dominated by the big four. But for this channel, there's a really unique opportunity. There's some of our competitors that, come from this channel, and it's a really cool space. There's a lot of cool opportunities now. It's capturing the momentum. I mean, Sensapure is on a wave that I have never been a part of in my 10 years in the flavor industry, in the flavor world, and it's capturing momentum. And if you're not willing to do that, will you be around? And thankfully, we have an owner who's willing to invest in not only expansion facilities, not only collaboration opportunities with ingredient suppliers, partnering with media, partnering with people that to tell our story, to help build our brand. So I appreciate you guys for the collaboration and the opportunity to kind of keep these conversations going.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you for letting us use your booth and stuff at trade shows and bringing us out and everything. Because it's been a wonderful time. I do have an idea to pitch to your leadership, and so I don't know if we want to make it public or anything because I think this one's.
We can always cut it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I've been thinking about I want to have the natural flavor for Food Bay become an active ingredient.
Yeah.
I think that you should turn it into a semi-functional active ingredient, find a way to patent it, and now you get your logo on the can or your logo on the tub.
And there's stuff, we're talking a lot of IP conversations, right? So that's the one thing as a flavor company you can do is kind of create some of your own patented IP. Whether it's, odor maskers, whether it's, functional fruit additives that also contribute flavor plus their natural intended benefit, right? Apples give you a natural, whatever the natural benefit that comes from these fruits and vegetables is.
Yeah, I'm thinking like you have to invest. It's got to be a lemon. Let's just say you're doing this natural lemon juice flavor, so no one has to put natural or artificial flavors in their thing. It's got to be so good. It's got to be so good it cannot be ignored. And if you have that, then that's like the doorway to having Sensapure shown to like the mass public at least.
Yeah,
I think,
and it's interesting. I would love, we had the conversation with PricePlow back in the day of let's do a PricePlow Sensapure flavor collab, and it's still going to come down the road sometime.
I think something more functional would fit that bill for sure.
That'd be fun.
So I think
some cool stuff you can get out of these citrus fruits too. That's where I'm also like, there's some GLP-1 stuff. There's synephrine in there.
Well, speaking of citrus flavonoids, we've got someone coming by we might be able to talk about that with.
What time is it? Yeah, we gotta.
It's about time to log off for sure.
Hey, cheers to you guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Cheers to the mic. There it is. Cheers, you guys. I appreciate it. To the next one.
Time out. How do we find you, Tyrus?
So on Instagram, I've been made fun of by Ben and Mike for this multiple times.
I didn't.
Flex the flavor
But
guy.
I don't think it looks right as Fly the Flavor Guy. So it's Fly X Flavor Guy on Instagram. You can get me on Instagram. I've had people DM me to start projects. My phone number 513-282-5291. Want to give me a ring?
I think
that's
so.
a first.
I thought he was just gonna say LinkedIn.
Oh,
like everyone else
that's a
does.
first.
No, give me a call. Again, not many people have access to their flavor people, and I think that's where we're winning. Is I want to give you access. I want to demystify what the flavor world looks like to you. My email is firstname.lastname@sensapure.com. So Tyrus.Sciarra.
Give me spell your last name for the audio listeners.
Sciarra.
Yeah.
And my middle name is Luigi. If it makes it any cooler, I want to do a Luigi collab with somebody. So let's make something happen that way.
And LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn.
You're great on LinkedIn.
Yes. Standard answer.
Yes.
You are anything but standard, my friend.
I'm on LinkedIn somewhere, but I'm easier to probably reach by cell phone. So give me a call, give me a text, and we'll get stuff moving.
Excellent.
Cool.
Thanks
Awesome.
again.
Thank you.